Think about how stressful it would be to be a detective looking for a psychotic serial killer. You are aware that another murderous attack by the killer will soon follow, taking more innocent lives. You're putting together specific clues, witness accounts, and evidence from the crime scene around the clock. When the evil serial killer finally makes a mistake, even a tiny one, you have your suspect in custody. For many detectives throughout the years, this has been a fact since they have seen firsthand how even the most calculating people can make serious mistakes. Before DNA, blood, and fiber analysis, the cat and mouse game was much more difficult to play. Because these psychopaths were not as intelligent as they thought they were, the subsequent manhunts all came to an end. Number 10. Dennis Rader. Serial killer Dennis "BTK Killer" Rader remained at large between 1974 and 1991. 10 individuals were murdered by him in Sedgwick County, Kansas. He was known by the acronym BTK, which stood for bind, torture, kill, so no one could doubt his depravity. The BTK killer relished teasing Wichita police with letters describing his heinous atrocities while they spent years trying to find him. The police were then questioned by BTK about their ability to track a floppy disk if one was sent. BTK supplied the floppy disk despite police advising that they did not, and his identity was quickly established. In 2005, the manhunt was finally over. Police Lieutenant Ken Lanwer revealed, "Him sending the disk is what cracked the case. We might not have made the connection if he had simply stopped killing and kept quiet." Number 9. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was able to seduce and charm his female victims into committing suicide. In the early hours of the morning in 1975, Bundy was traveling through the suburbs of Salt Lake City in his Volkswagen Beetle when a patrolman gave him the signal to stop. Bundy fled quickly in a panic. Bundy was wanted for no charges, despite the fact that he had already killed 25 women in 4 different states, and if he had stopped the car when asked, he would have just been sent on his way. The officer was already suspicious when he eventually succeeded in stopping the car because he saw that the passenger side seat had been completely removed. It was later determined that this was the location where Bundy hid his victims from view. The policeman also discovered a pantyhose mask, a large box of trash bags, an ice pick, a flashlight, a pair of gloves, torn sheets, and a knit ski mask inside the vehicle. One of the deadliest serial killers ever to live had just been apprehended by the police. Number 8. Luis Garavito. At least 138 people died at the hands of Luis Garavito, while it's thought that number could reach 400. The serial killer, who was born in Colombia, preferred to pick out poor, male victims between the ages of 6 and 16. By giving them odd chores in exchange for cash or modest presents, he gained their trust. After being lured away, the young and defenseless lads were subjected to extensive torture before being slaughtered. The bodies of the missing boys were found in a mass grave site in 1997, alerting police to the fact that they were now searching for a serial killer. When Garavito was detained for an attempted rape 2 years later, he was the main suspect. After an eye check, they learned that Garavito had a rare eye condition that matched a set of eyeglasses that had been left at the mass grave site exactly. They were able to apprehend Colombia's most sought serial killer thanks to the recovered lost items. Number 7. Joel Rifkin. Joel Rifkin murdered 17 young women in New York City and Long Island between 1989 and 1993, while the exact number of victims is yet undetermined. The evil serial murderer was known to remove their fingertips and teeth from the bodies of his victims, many of whom were sex workers. If only he had thoroughly inspected his pickup truck, the terrible killings might have gone on for longer. Rifkin was captured by the authorities while driving down Southern State Parkway in New York during the summer of 1993 without a license plate. Police noticed a bad stench coming from the truck during a fast-paced chase that culminated with Rifkin crashing right into a post outside a courtroom. Tiffany Bresciani, 22, who had been Dave Rubenstein's girlfriend, a member of the punk music band Reagan Youth, was found dead. He was given a life sentence and his first chance for release is in 2197. Number 6. Dennis Nilsen. Dennis Nilsen, who killed and dismembered at least 12 young men in London between 1978 and 1983, is frequently referred to as the British Jeffrey Dahmer. After meeting his victims in a neighborhood tavern, Nilsen would invite them to his house for a drink before strangling them to death. After the killings, the insane killer had a rigorous ritual in which he would strip and cleanse the dead before burning them or flushing their remains down the toilet. Until Nilsson complained about his property's clogged pipes and contacted a plumber to take a look, his crimes went unnoticed. The plumber discovered a clog that looked like meat and had bones when he lifted the drain cover. On that particular day, the police were waiting for Nilsson when he got home. 3 remains were found in his residence after further investigation. At his previous location, the bones of at least 8 further victims were also discovered. Number 5. Israel Keyes. Israel Keyes was a serial killer who operated between Washington, New York, New Jersey, and Alaska. He is known to have killed at least 3 victims, but there may be 8 or more victims in total. Keyes abducted 18-year-old Samantha Koenig from the coffee shop where she was a waiter, and the next day he killed her. In order to make it look like she was still alive, he took a picture of her body with a 4-day-old newspaper and issued a $30,000 ransom demand on Koenig's debit card. His unexpected oversight occurred when he went to an ATM to withdraw the ransom and was promptly tracked down by CCTV before being taken into custody. In detention, Keyes admitted to killing 3 people and even offered to give the locations of 2 further graves in return for a cigar. He penned a 2-page suicide note before going on trial, then cut his wrists and hanged himself. Investigators will never know how far the bloodied trail he left behind actually extended. 4. Jeffrey Dahmer. Between 1978 and 1991, Jeffrey the Milwaukee cannibal Dahmer admitted to killing 17 men and boys. It's unsettling to consider how many more people he could have killed if his flat had an air freshener. Tracy Edwards, 32, was frightened by a bad stench emanating from a blue 57-gallon drum in the corner of the room when Dahmer asked him back to his flat to take nude pictures in exchange for $100. When Edwards requested a restroom break while being handcuffed by Dahmer, his request was granted, allowing him to smack Dahmer over the head and flee. Edwards was able to approach 2 Milwaukee police officers and inform them of the freak's recent actions. When police arrived at Dahmer's residence to conduct their investigation, they found multiple Polaroids of severed human remains. In the refrigerator, they also discovered body parts, including a human head. "For what I did, I should be dead," Dahmer muttered as he was being taken into custody. Number 3. David Berkowitz. When David, son of Sam Berkowitz, carried out 8 consecutive shooting incidents in New York City and the surrounding areas between 1976 and 1977, killing 8 people with a .44 caliber bulldog revolver, he frightened the populace. As he taunted them with ominous letters about his atrocities, Berkowitz joined the largest police manhunt in New York City history. It seems even more amazing that the serial killer was apprehended by a parking ticket now that we know the FBI was hot on his tail. After Berkowitz killed a 20-year-old couple in a Brooklyn borough, a witness claimed she saw a young man while out walking her dog at around 2:30 in the morning. She recalled that he was rigidly gripping his arm as if he were carrying something in his sleeve and that a police officer had towed a car that was parked illegally close to the crime scene. The parking ticket was linked by detectives to a 1970 Ford Galaxy that was registered in Berkowitz's name. "I believe this is the end of the trail," Berkowitz stated to the officers after being apprehended. Number 2. Albert Fish. Serial murderer Albert Fish, who was born in 1870, went by a number of aliases, including the Werewolf of Wisteria, Brooklyn Vampire, and the Boogeyman. Fish was electrocuted to death for the savage killings of 3 people, including 10-year-old Grace Budd. Unknown numbers of victims could have been added to his list before he was discovered by an envelope with a letter that was extremely harsh. Budd's mother received a letter from Fish in which he described in detail how he had killed and eaten her young daughter. The serial killer mocked, "It took me 9 days to consume her whole body." The letter was handed off in a letterbox bearing the logo of the New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. Fish had moved out of the rooming home where the envelope was found by the police a few days earlier, but he was due back to pick up a check. When he came back, the cops pounced and managed to apprehend the evil child killer. Number 1. Andrei Chikatilo. Ukrainian-born The Butcher of Rostov, Andrei Chikatilo is infamous for the 1978 to 1990 assaults, killings, and mutilations of at least 52 women and children. There was little doubt that a madman serial killer was at large after the discovery of the dead with severed limbs. In Rostov Oblast, uniformed police were stationed at rail stops to ward off potential murderers. A number of undercover agents were also sent to question anyone who seemed suspicious. More than 360 police officers were staffing the stations at the time of the manhunt. Chicatilo was cleaning his face and hands in a well at a neighboring station in November 1990 when he was approached by an agent. A red smear was left on Chicatilo's cheek from improper face washing, and his name was taken down. Chicatilo was apprehended and executed for his crimes by a single gunshot 4 years later after the body of his 36th victim was found in the adjacent woods. So, guys, that was it for this video. What did you think about our video? Let us know in the comments section below. If you are new to our channel, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell to get notified about our latest videos. Thanks for watching.